Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the hidden cost of the wrong accountant, why STRs need industry-specific finance support in partnership with Ximplifi. So my name is Priya and I'll be your moderator for today's session. I'm the editor of Short-Term Rentals, which, if you are unfamiliar, is a B2B platform that focuses on delivering multimedia content across the short-term rental industry. So as mentioned, today's webinar is brought to you in partnership with Ximplifi. So please enjoy this short video from our sponsor. So we'll just run you through today's webinar structure. So we have a 45-minute discussion with our panelists today, with time at the end for a Q&A. So please do drop any questions that you might have in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. We will also be recording this session as well. So a recording will be sent to your inboxes within 24 hours. And a recording will be available on the Short-Term Rentals website if you are interested in accessing it there. We will also be running a survey at the end, so please do give any feedback that you might have. It always helps. And all links to anything that we reference in today's webinar, including information on our speakers, will be available in that chat box below. So please refer there if you are interested in anything that we touch on today. So before we dive in today's discussion, I wanted to take a moment to reference a little bit of context about today's topic. So here we have an article that we published recently on short-term rentals, which kind of gives a little insight into the importance of today's topic. So the article here touches on how over-reliance on automation and software systems can pose hidden risks to short-term rental businesses, particularly when it comes to financial management. And the aim of today's webinar is to show how important managing STR finances is when it comes to the role of accountants and financial experts. And much like relying on software tools without proper oversight, relying on a general accountant who might not be too familiar with the specifics of the STR industry can potentially lead to missed opportunities. So today we're going to be exploring just how choosing the right financial partner, someone deep with knowledge of the STR space, can mitigate risk and ultimately ensure the long-term financial health of your business. So before we dive in, I'll allow each of our speakers to introduce themselves very briefly. So for ease, let's go from left to right as we can see on screen. So we'll start with you, Kailey. Welcome.
Thank you, Priya. Hi, my name is Kailey LeCompte. I am a client service lead with Ximplifi. I've been with the team for a little over 3 years now, diving into the short-term rental accounting business, and we are happy to help with any of your short-term accounting needs.
Thanks, Kailey. And Brit, welcome, Brit.
Thanks, Bria. My name is Brit Berbas. I'm the Director of Business Development for Ximplifi. Been with the company now for about 6 years, and I oversee all of our marketing and sales initiatives. So love to chat with you further if you have any questions or interest.
Thanks, Brit. And to you, Thomas, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I am one of the owners of a short-term rental business in the Gulf Coast of Florida. We have about 50 units, houses and condos in that market. We've been in operation for about 15 years, and I'm happy to be with you guys today.
Thank you, Thomas. And last but not least, David, welcome.
Thank you. My name is David Lee. I'm the founder and president of Everrow Property, a short-term rental manager based in the Northeast of the United States, and proud client of Ximplifi. So happy to be here and talk about our experience.
Thanks, David. And thank you all for introducing yourselves. So with that, let's jump into the our discussion today. So I wanted to start off by kind of kicking off our conversation, talking about how using a general accountant could potentially be costing an STR business money. So obviously, money saving aspects are key to when it comes to our financial management. And I wanted to start with you, Kailey, to kind of ask you, what are some of the most common accounting challenges unique to STR businesses that general accountants may often overlook?
Yeah, of course. So, short-term rental is a very niche industry, and any help in accounting is going to help your business. But here at Ximplifi, we specialize in short-term rentals. So that is all of our clients. Some of the challenges that are unique to the business are understanding the trust versus the operating. So essentially, we're keeping set of two different sets of books: your trust, which is your funds that are due to your owners, and then obviously your operating business. So lack of knowledge there for a general accountant could potentially cause your trust to be underfunded. You're missing funds. Another big thing that we're doing at Ximplifi is not only reconciling your accounts, your bank accounts, your credit cards, but we're also in your PMS system double checking your reservations, making sure that all of that information is pulling in correctly into your accounts.
Definitely. And what would you say is the biggest difference between a general accountant and one that really specializes in STR accounting? As you mentioned, it is so niche and there is a lot of nuance that goes into understanding the processes. So what would you say is that biggest difference?
Yeah. One thing that we're doing is yes, the process is very general, and I'm sorry, not general, but the same across our clients, but the way that all of our clients are handling their business is different. So recognizing those fees differently, pet fees, early check-in, things that are in those reservations, making sure that we're handling those correctly, making sure your cleaning fees are coming through correctly, where we're double checking that you're not overspending in your cleaning costs versus what revenue you're getting in. We're also reconciling your rental taxes. So are you receiving the right amount of revenue to pay out for your rental taxes? Verifying those amounts that are due to your owners. Are you paying your owners correctly? Are you getting reimbursed for the expenses that you are buying on behalf of your owners? There's so many details within your books that sometimes those are going to get overlooked by a general accountant.
Thanks, Kailey. And Brit, obviously, Kailey outlined some important differences there. But in your view, how can working with accountants who specialize in short-term rentals really help a business in the long run and long term?
Yeah, thanks, Bria. Well, as I mentioned, I've been working with Ximplifi for about 6 years now. And during that time, I've spoken with hundreds of STR management companies. And one thing I hear all the time is that my accounting is holding me back and I don't know where to start. So I think, getting your accounting system, your property management system, any other financial tools set up the right way in the beginning is critical. And it's one of the biggest value adds that a firm working in the space can add, because that's going to be something that we help with, building that foundation during onboarding. And when the right systems are in place, operators can scale with confidence and make smarter business decisions on clean and reliable data.
Thank you. And Kailey, I'm just interested to hear, is scaling kind of a long-term goal in mind when it comes to kind of choosing the right accountant? In your view, how do those benefits that you mentioned really work out in the long run?
Yeah, I really think it depends on the client. At Ximplifi, we have a large range of clients. We have a couple of clients that have a handful of properties, and then of course they continue to grow. So we are digging in with our clients specifically and asking, what are those goals? What do you want to do? Are you looking to grow? How can we help you? I think that advisory is a key piece of what we're doing at Ximplifi to help them, like Brit say, make sure their books are clean, make sure they're getting great data. And so that way, if they are looking to grow, we can help them with that.
Thanks, Kailey. And Thomas, just looping you in here, obviously from a property manager perspective, having been in it, have you worked with an accountant in the past who you maybe felt wasn't familiar with the nuances that come with short-term rental accounting and the specifics of it? And would you be able to share some of the challenges that you faced?
Sure. Yes, we worked with a general accountant for about 10 years. And, this was a person that was local to the community. We knew the person very well. Great person, great firm. It's a very small firm. They kept the tracks, going down the right direction. Bills got paid. All those things worked great. But what we were missing was the detailed specialty knowledge of the short-term rental business. And what I mean by that is that our financial statements were presented just like any other business, kind of a generic business. We really had opportunities that we were missing because we didn't have the chart of accounts set up in a more granular way. There were areas where we were honestly just missing out on revenue, or actually believing that we were making money on a different a particular service, but we were actually losing money. So when we were able to really get the data clean and really break out the chart of accounts where we could track the revenue and the associated expenses with it, we were able to optimize our business much more effectively and really see a turnaround in profitability in some key areas. So I just think, a general accountant can do a fine job, but they really don't know the detailed processes and KPIs that the folks at Ximplifi know. And we were able to sit down with them and say, how should we measure our business? What different KPIs should we measure? How can we tweak those and really make different management decisions to optimize to those KPIs? And it really made a big difference in our business overall. We could never get that type of data out of a general accountant. So it was very impactful for us.
Thank you, Thomas. And David, just bringing you in here, have you had similar experiences with accountants who didn't specialize in STRs? And what challenges did you face when it came to that?
Thanks. Yeah, similar experiences for sure, both prior to joining with Ximplifi and with Ximplifi. I come from a finance background and set up our company's books, and then still when we joined with Ximplifi, I think it speaks to working with somebody industry specific, niche specific, that they were able to take a look at what we were doing, talk about best practices that they had seen across the industry, and connect that back to the direction that we wanted to go in with our company, Everrow Property. Even if one has the capability of making sure the data is accurate and keeping structuring the books in a certain way, I feel that our expertise and where I want to focus my time in is bringing in more revenue for our owners, making our guests happy. That's kind of our competitive advantage. That's where we shine. And to the extent that I can get help from somebody who specializes in a process fundamental to my business, but one that can be outsourced and made more efficient, I'm all for that. And then it gives me the confidence to take on new business and to focus on doing more for our existing owners. But I would also say that having reliable information structured in a good way allows me to talk with Kailey and talk with others on the team around strategic decisions that we're making. We want to try outsourcing laundry. What is that looking like? How are we going to set that up in a way that we can track that and see KPIs around reviews, KPIs around costs, and whether that's an efficient program, and lots of stuff like that, from our operations to software that we're bringing on. So yeah, certainly feel strongly about industry specific folks and have benefited from that at Everrow property.
Well, thank you, David. And I'm just coming back to you, Kailey, here. I'm interested to know, obviously, from the clients that you've worked with, have they echoed similar concerns and challenges, or are there some other financial mistakes that you see operators make before they kind of come to you with those concerns?
Yeah, kind of like David said, we are working with our clients to make sure they are making smart decisions. So obviously this isn't our business, this is your business, but we want to make sure what you are spending your money and time on makes sense for your business. So if you don't have somebody in there giving you that advice that is speaking to what we've seen, that can also cost you some time and money on your hands. So are we making smart decisions as far as cleaning expenses goes, laundry, like David said? How can we improve not only our costs there, but the time and effort that you're taking as a property manager or a rental owner to manage those things? So that can cost our short-term rental operators money and time if we aren't in there helping you out. There's also, if you don't have that visibility to where you are spending money, what it's looking like on your books, like Thomas said, getting into the numbers, getting into, are we actually making money on some of these fees, that can cause you some headache and heartache in the long run.
For sure, yes. And Thomas and David, I just wanted to come back to you there. So obviously you mentioned that visibility aspect and losing money in the long term. So before you were kind of aware of that, was there anything that led you to seeking out an accounting partner like Ximplifi? And what did you find most valuable about that partnership? Obviously, I'm sure that was a big factor too. But is there anything that you found really valuable about that when you first made that move?
Sure, David, I can go. And I think one of the things that we knew intuitively is that we had some leakage in different places. We had a standard markup on cleanings, but it did not look like it was really rolling to the bottom line. And our traditional accountant that we had really couldn't give us the type of data and information to really be able to make good management decisions around that. Just didn't have the granularity of the data. The data wasn't as clean, and they didn't have the industry expertise to know how maybe 50 other short-term rental management companies do it and what their margins look like. That context is very, very valuable and very important. I would probably say it's kind of comparable to, I love my family medical doctor, but I'm not going to go to that person for something that requires a real specialty. And I really think the STR business really needs that specialty because it is a unique business. So for us, working with Ximplifi, we were able to really dive in. We actually saw that our trust account was overfunded. So that was a nice benefit to see. We were also disappointed in some areas where we thought we were making money, like cleanings and parking passes and things like that. But when you really cleaned up the data, we weren't. And they know what the industry benchmarks and KPIs should be. So it was very easy for us to say, this industry benchmark, we're only hitting half of that metric. We're not even close. And it educated us to make different management decisions. And now that we're, 18 months into this relationship, we've seen a very big difference in the performance of our business.
Thank you, Thomas.
Yeah.
David, with your thoughts.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd echo a lot of the things that Thomas talked about, and maybe using an example for our company, we look to make our margin off of the commission on the nightly rent and sort of align ourselves with the owners that we're partnering with basically handle operations as a pass-through as efficiently as possible. So in the case of outsourcing dry cleaning, like I was talking about earlier, you know, it would really take a lot working with a general accountant to ask them to set things up in such a way where I can actually see the cost per property of that dry cleaning in a way that's, you know, visible with my overall cleaning costs, how that's comparing to other parts of the portfolio, and whether, you know, this is improving things along with, you know, the cost that I'm paying my team, and bringing down our overall, you know, operational turnover costs, therefore, you know, raising our nightly rate at least that amount. And the platforms, you know, rank based on a lot of different factors, but one of the factors is how competitive are your, you know, turnover costs and fees with other folks in your market. So it's something that I suppose is possible. It's possible that, you know, someone in-house could set that up and do all the work to make those things line up. I suppose it's possible that you could do that with a general accountant, but if I'm working with somebody like Kailey and a team like Ximplifi, they understand that that's that our North Star is nightly rental revenue. And so when I'm talking to them about, you know, trialing something and I, you know, want to see how it goes, they both have experience from across the industry on how to best track that and manage that. And we're starting the conversation off from you know, at the very least, a footing where they intimately understand how the business operates. And so it's much easier to take on new things, to take on new clients. I would say the biggest thing for me signing up with them wasn't as much individual opportunities, but just a free up of my time, especially, you know, during month ends, trusting that, you know, that some of that accounting work is going to be taken care of. And so I'm able to, you know, focus on increasing revenues, increasing quality for guests, and those sorts of things that I feel I specialize in.
Definitely. And I guess having those that have that market knowledge when it comes to dealing with your accounting is obviously going to help you understand where you might be mismanaged in certain areas. So just coming on to that topic, I'd like to hear a little bit more about the impact of financial mismanagement on your business growth. So David, in your view, how has that financial mismanagement that maybe you might have experienced in the past before with more general accounting and seeking that, how has that impacted your business when it comes to kind of profitability, sustainability, and how did working with Ximplifi really help you improve that growth? And are you able to kind of share how you've seen that grow since you started that partnership as well?
Yeah, I think the biggest metric is our portfolio that we manage is much larger now than when we started with Ximplifi, and I am better able to track per property margins, per property revenues, and kind of take things that are working in some part of our portfolio and bring them to other parts in the same way that Ximplifi is able to help me make the accounting and financial process more efficient. It's hard to quantify, but I would say, you know, freeing up a lot of the time that I would otherwise be checking certain things has allowed us to boost profitability for the properties that we have under management and confidently bring on new folks who are interested in our service.
Thanks, David. And Thomas, just coming back to you, obviously you mentioned that you noticed an uptake in efficiency and profitability over those past 18 months that you began working with Ximplifi. So could you share a little bit about how financial mismanagement might have affected your business and how Ximplifi really helped things turn around, or your advice when it comes to really reviewing your accounting strategy?
Sure. I think a couple of areas where it made a big impact on us were things like marketing spend. That's something in the STR business that's always so difficult to know. Are you doing enough? Are you doing too much? And what it allowed us to do was to get some really good benchmarks as a percentage of revenue. What is an average STR business out there spending for marketing costs? And when we looked at that, we benchmarked that against our own, we saw some opportunities to optimize that and to improve that. And it doesn't mean that we always just cut costs. It means that we spend that money wiser and more efficiently. We had a similar experience in technology spend. It seems like, our industry has new technology that pops out every day. And, you're really compelled to try and stay on the cutting edge to make sure that you have the latest and greatest of everything, because you want that perfect guest experience. You want the efficiency that you can get through automation, all the things that technology promises and sometimes can deliver. But you also have to look at that as a percentage of revenue spend, because you can very quickly overspend on different aspects of technology and not get the return on investment. So we saw a lot of opportunities in just, for example, those two areas, but also going back to core elements of our business where we thought we were either, like David, we were trying to break even, or we were trying to make a minor profit to cover the operational expense of doing certain activities. Administering parking passes, for example. Tracking that and tracking revenue and the associated expenses is very challenging, especially when you have a general accountant that's not what they do. We saw a lot of opportunities when we started shining the spotlight on different areas of our business like that, to where what we thought was happening was not happening. And it allowed us to make some changes to our processes. It allowed us to make changes to some of our pricing that really made a big difference in our overall bottom line.
That's really interesting to hear. And Kailey, if we circle back to you here, I'm just interested to know how your process would be when it would come to onboarding a new STR client. So obviously there are issues that have been voiced that maybe clients have when they come to you, or concerns, maybe, as mentioned, they're not reaching the right revenue, or they might be spending too much or too little in certain areas, and need that kind of understanding of a broader market sense. So I'm curious to know what your onboarding process looks like, and how working with an accountant with that industry knowledge can really help maximize those time savings and profitability aspects.
Yeah. So one great thing about Ximplifi is we have a dedicated onboarding specialist. So she meets with you as soon as Brit gets everything set up on the sales sign, we get contract signed, and we have different services. So if you are a property manager that has either been doing their books themselves, or you've hired a general accountant, we can go back and do some historical cleanup, make sure your books make sense, and really, raise a flag on any issues that we may see from your past reporting. But when we are coming on with you and setting you up as a new client with us, we are asking so many questions. We want all of the information on your business. How are we recognizing revenue? Are we recognizing it on check-in or check-out? How are we setting up fees? What exactly is going to your owners? What are you taking in as the property manager? We want to know all of the information about how you are handling these reservations. So when we're going through that process and we're setting that up, not only are we getting all this information, but we're also digging into your PMS system, making sure that your reservation data looks correct. and we're syncing all of that information over into either QuickBooks or Sage Intacct, whichever service that you sign on to. And all of that information we're making sure is flowing correctly. Everything is squared away before you hire us on as accountants. So with that onboarding specialist and that team, it's going to save you a lot of time and energy in the long run, to make sure all of that information is flowing correctly. Another great platform that we use at Ximplifi is VR platform. So it is an owner statement platform. It is pulling in all of your reservation data, and that is a big time-saving efficiency platform on our end. Previously, we were doing owner statements very manually within QuickBooks on our team. So this is pulling all that information into VR platform for our end-of-month processes and making all owner statements visible to your owners. So our onboarding team is setting all of that up. They're squaring all of that away and making sure everything's running properly before your accounting team gets a hold of your account and starts working on your daily books.
Thanks, Kailey. And Brit, just circling you in here as well. When it comes to kind of building partnerships with potential SDR operators or expanding Ximplifi services, how do you kind of deal with that onboarding, and what do you look for and prioritize in that process?
I would say, you know, Kailey touched on a lot of the actual accounting setup, but as Thomas mentioned, one of the big factors is selecting the right technology, you know, to make sure that things are set up in a way that meets your structure, that helps automate processes, not only for the Ximplifi accounting team, but also for our clients. You know, bill payment is a really good example, expense management. So I think that's one of the things that we really look to do during the evaluation phase. You know, I'm talking to our clients to help identify the platforms that are going to be best suited for them. And then, of course, that flows through to onboarding as well. And we, of course, have some preferred partners that we work with and are happy to recommend. But again, our goal is really to help determine the best solution for our clients. And each one, as Kailey mentioned, is quite different. So it's a very, very one-on-one, tailorable experience that we put our clients through.
Thanks, Brit. And just coming back to you here, David, obviously yourself and Thomas outlined some really key examples of how outcomes and improvements of working with Ximplifi and really tailoring your accounting strategy. But is there anything else that has kind of helped you kind of with your time savings and with your financial processes in the process that you may not have thought about before you kind of enlisted the help of financial support?
I'll say, just piggybacking off of Brit, familiarity with the software that's available that we are using or looking to use in our industry. I definitely agree with Thomas that you know, it's exciting. There's you know, new stuff coming out and new tools that we want to use to give our clients an edge. So yeah, it's invaluable that working with financial experts that have you know, either familiarity working with others who already use those tools or an understanding of how those tools work. We recently started with Breezeway as kind of a quality assurance task management platform, in some ways separate from accounting, not explicitly an accounting tool, but I was able to talk with Kailey and talk with the team and say, hey, this is a project that we're thinking of bringing on. This is why we think it'll be valuable. There's going to be data in here, and how can we leverage the data? You know, have you worked with other people who use this tool, and you know, what do you think about it? So so that's great. VR platform we have been familiar with. So I'm recalling that one of the key reasons for starting the conversation with Brit and with Ximplifi in the first place was their partnership or involvement in VR platform, and certainly use of it and knowledge of it. So yeah, software and industry know-how all come to mind.
Thank you. And I guess obviously technology and softwares are essential for that boost of efficiency and time-saving aspect. So Thomas, just bringing you back in here as well, have there been any software technology aspect that maybe you wanted to comment on that kind of helped you see improvements in time savings and efficiency as well?
Yeah, I think the partnership that Ximplifi has with Bill.com has been definitely a good pickup for us. It gives us really great transparency on what has been paid and what has not. If we have, one of our vendors reaching out about a payment, it's very easy for us to go in and check that without necessarily trying to send off an email or make a phone call to track it down. So I think the selection of software, and I know they have a lot of different software packages that they are confident in using, but I think Bill.com was one that we saw a definite pickup from our traditional accountant that we were using, because in the past that was always a phone call, an email, some type of follow-up that we had to do. Whereas today we just log in, see the status of a payment, and make it happen. So, I also wanted to build on something David was saying earlier about one of the things that we've really seen benefit our company from this relationship has been the confidence to grow. And I think when we were with, a legacy accountant, great guy, great firm. But we really never knew if we could stress test that, if we could really grow, and because we didn't know at what point, maybe the wheels do fall off, because we couldn't scale up. And that's one thing that I really have a lot of confidence now at this point, that we've had good growth over the past 18 months that we've been with Ximplifi. And I really have a lot of confidence that we can continue that trajectory. So I think that's a big lift for the business as well. If you're thinking of it from a leadership perspective, knowing that you can go out there and focus on growth and adding properties and making sure that you're delivering value back to your owners without necessarily worrying about operationally how is everything going to scale up accounting wise. So that has been a big transformational lift as well.
Thanks, Thomas. It's interesting to hear how the improvements have spanned obviously time savings, but obviously as well as that scaling aspect too. So that's really interesting to hear. I just wanted to shift gears slightly and just talk a little bit now about what those operators curious about enlisting the help of industry-specific support should really look for when it comes to short-term rental financial advice, and what the key questions that they should ask are. So Brit, if we come to you here, what qualifications and expertise does Ximplifi bring to the table when it comes to accounting for short-term rentals?
Sorry, I told myself I wouldn't do it, and I did. Left myself on mute for a moment there.
Easily done.
But yeah, I think to answer this question, it's helpful to give a bit more of a background of Ximplifi. So Ximplifi was founded just about 7 years ago, maybe even more than that now, by 3 colleagues from a regional accounting firm, including a former CFO of a global real estate company. So they recognized a clear gap in specialized accounting support in this industry, and that's really where Ximplifi came from, and they were hoping to fill it. So since day one, this has been our sole focus, and for more than 7 years, we've really been working exclusively with short-term rental management companies, combining that deep accounting expertise with the industry knowledge to deliver systems and processes that truly support our clients. So asking those types of questions, I think, is probably going to be very helpful. Just understanding, what the background of the firm is, and are there CPAs involved, and what does the experience look like? How many customers do they currently serve? Do they have references? Those types of things I think are valuable to understand when looking for some support.
Definitely. Thank you, Brit. And Kailey, just looping you in here as well. Is there anything that you think is important to look for when it comes to searching for the right kind of characteristics when it comes from a more client perspective?
Yeah, so I'm sure we've touched on a couple of these topics, but I feel like the big one is understanding that separation between your trust account and your operating business. So that is really a key factor in knowledge of short-term rental accounting, because of the fact that technically that trust account, that money is not for your business. That is all due to your owners. So if you're looking for an accountant, short-term rental specific or general, asking those questions of their knowledge of trust accounting is really big. And also, one thing that we've touched on is all of the different systems that intermingle, all of the PMS systems, Bill.com. We also work with Avalara, or like David mentioned, Breezeway. Knowledge of those different systems and softwares is very essential to make sure that your business is running efficiently. And if your accountant has knowledge of that, that's going to save you a lot of time and effort on like teaching them about those systems and making sure that all of that information is pulling in correctly.
Thanks, Kailey. And Thomas, was there anything that you sort of looked out for when it came to looking for an accountant, or important characteristics that stood out to you, obviously, when you began your search as an operator?
Yeah, changing your accountant, changing your tax partner, changing your attorneys, those are some of the hardest changes that you make, because you have such a long-standing relationship. You look at them and say, they know me, they know my business, they've been doing this for a long time. So when we finally made the decision to change, it was a hard decision. But when you start looking at the qualifications, you can start seeing where it really is like going from a general practitioner to a deep specialist in a particular area. And when we first started having those conversations, of course, you go through your normal due diligence where you get a proposal, you compare the services, you do a comparison of the fees, you do reference checks, all of those things. And you also look at the cultural fit. Do you get along with the folks that you've met from the organization that you're thinking about going with? But at the end of the day, all those boxes were checked, and they typically are. Those are not people don't put up references on a reference sheet that they think is going to be a bad reference, right? They feel pretty good about their proposal and their references. What it came down to was the difference that we believed that the switch could make to our business, and the confidence that we had that was starting to build in the team that we were moving toward. So they spoke much more intelligently about our business on a nuance level. They knew the software we used. They knew our business. They knew some of the players in our business. When we started talking about things like take rate and what percentage of revenue should this expense be, that rolled off the tongue. And when we looked at some of the competitors out there that did not have this level of industry specialization, they didn't know. Their answers weren't nearly as strong. So that's really what brought us over the finish line, was the confidence and the credentials that we had in the team that we were moving to.
Thanks, Tom. It always helps when I feel like someone's speaking a language, and it's always a bit more reassuring. So that's great to hear. And David, just on your end, when you kind of invested that journey, were there any characteristics that you looked out for in an accountant, as obviously a short-term rental business owner?
Yeah, I think that was very well said, and is reminding me of that journey. And thankful to Brit. It was a long conversation that we had about all of the things that I wanted to know. Who is it that I would be working with? What is that team looking like? Who's on it? What's the cadence? The owners that I'm working for, their expectations. What can I expect in terms of timeframes for getting certain deliverables done, along with many, if not all, of the other things that we talked about, and discussed that with Ximplifi. Discussed those details with other folks in the short-term rental accounting space, and like Thomas said, found Ximplifi to be more knowledgeable about those areas, more confident, and with a wider range of options as far as what cadence and timelines and things like that could look like. So I was able to find a program or a product that worked for my needs and our company's needs. And I think advice would be to ask lots of questions and kind of think through what your owner's needs are, what one's needs are as a property manager, and see who it feels like is going to be the best fit. But for us, that was Ximplifi, and have been surprised to the upside since signing on.
Thanks, David. Jumping ahead of me there, but that brings me to my next question, which was what advice each of you would give to STR operators who are just starting to take their financial management journey a bit more seriously, and what the first step you think that they should take to get on the right track. So David, I don't know if you want to kick off, or you are already starting off the conversation there, but what piece of advice would you give to operators who are looking to kick off their financial management journey?
It is a good question. There are a lot of options out there, and thankfully, I think the and Brit and Kailey can speak more to this than I, but the good news is that, depending on where someone is starting out, it has been done before. There are best practices. There are people out there who, just like you might be, we're talking about general accountant versus short-term rental accountant. I think of it, if somebody were asking me, do I need somebody with short-term rental specific knowledge to run my short-term rental, or can I just start calling property management companies? And there's a huge gap, and it's just a completely different animal. So I would start there. I would look around at what's available, and I'm sure I know Brit is. I'm sure others are more than happy to talk about what it is that they offer, what they've seen work for our clients. So I would say ask lots of questions, and think through one's needs as an operator, and the needs of the owners in making that final decision.
David, some great tips there. And Brit, just coming to you, I'd like your take as well. So what advice would you kind of give to those starting their journeys, and what's the first step you think that they should take?
I think for someone that wants to start taking the financial management more seriously is to treat your accounting like the backbone of your business and not just a compliance task. When you really start to think about it as an investment instead of just an expense, that's where it can really pay off for your business. Because the earlier you invest in those scalable processes and the right accounting person or partner, firm, whatever that is for your business, the easier it will be to grow, and with clarity and confidence.
Definitely. It's definitely an investment to your long-term financial future. So thank you for that, Brit. And Kailey, coming to you next.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Brit here, it's so important to stay in your books as a property management company or operator. You need to know where your cash is at. So being involved in that, even if you're hiring somebody on like us or another person, you still need to be involved in where are you spending? Where's your money? What's your revenue looking like? And not only that, I know a lot of our property management companies or owners are looking at that PMS data, what's in Guesty, what's in Hostfully, and looking at the numbers there. But are you reconciling it to the cash that's in your account? You want to make sure that everything is accounted for. So really being involved in what's actually in your bank, what's actually on your profit and loss statement, what's in your books is super important to the growth and the future of your company.
Thank you, Kailey. And Thomas, if we come to you.
Yeah, I think all the topics that were just covered are very, very good and very relevant. I think the only thing that I would add there is this is an industry that's very strong in collaboration and information sharing. So I would definitely reach out to some of the trade associations, attend some of the webinars like this, and start to network with other people, because what you'll find is that people they will share their software selection, their business process, their growth strategies, all those things with you, because a lot of times we're not competing for the same customer or the same owner or same guest. So there's a lot of collaboration in this industry that I think can get someone up to speed very quickly when they're just starting out.
Definitely. Thanks, Thomas. And short-term rentals webinar is a good place to start, might I add. Fab, thank you all for your amazing insights, and thank you for all of those who have joined us today. I think that was a great place to leave our discussion there. To our audience, if you'd like to get in touch with Ximplifi or have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out. All further links are included in that chat box, so please feel free to take a look. And I hope that this session has helped you understand the crucial role that specialised accountants can really play in setting your business up for long-term financial success. So just a few closing remarks from me as we kind of close off on our discussion. So this was our final webinar of the summer, but don't worry, we're coming right back in September, and here is our updated list of webinars. So please feel free to sign up if you haven't already via the Short-Term Rentals website. And tickets for our short-term rental summit are now live. Again, tickets are available on the short-term rentals website, as well as further details on what you can expect from the day. And if you are interested in working with us, then please feel free to reach out to our head of growth, whose contact information is on screen and the chat box as well. And that's it from me. Just a final thank you to our speakers and to our listeners, and again to Ximplifi for sponsoring, and please enjoy this closing video from the IHM team.
Hello, we are International Hospitality Media, or IHM for short. IHM is the #1 brand to engage with decision makers in hospitality and real estate. Our 4 multimedia brands lead their respective sectors with breaking news, comments, trends, and opinions across a variety of multimedia solutions. We provide an inspirational community to connect people through world-class events, webinars, podcasts, award schemes, and much more. But let us share our story of who we are and what we do. Over 10 years ago, Piers and George had a light bulb moment to provide expert opinion, comments, and low-cost digital content. And so, they went on a journey over the past decade, creating media platforms to serve the hospitality and real estate industries. We now have an engaged audience with a reach of over 60,000 monthly visitors across our website, 52,500 in our email database across all sectors, and over 68,000 across our social channels. Everything we do challenges the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. We make things simple and very easy to work with us, and we're a friendly bunch too. We offer creative solutions to help you achieve your business goals. Read, watch, listen, and meet with IHM. Connect with us for a chat today. Just look at some of the brands we have worked with recently.